Greetings and welcome people to YouTube. This is Essence of Water, and I'm actually recording this after I've recorded the other video footage that I'm in, which I recorded after the original discussion that I had. But yes, I'm just going to explain. I am going to play one of the highlights of the discussion, in which he apparently quoted Darwin. It was Darwin's letter to, let me just check this 1 second, it was to William Graham, and he quoted it. And, you know, on the spot I couldn't of course check what he was saying, but I don't think he knew I was recording the audio, and when I went back and checked the audio, he added a bit onto the end that was complete and utter bullshit. It was a complete and direct lie. And this is one of the guys, you know, he looks like he was actually one of the guys who's running the Christian thing, even though he's not the person who's the main runner. You know, he was an actual adult, not a person of 18, so, you know, a person of 30 years or so. So the fact that he's just directly lying is certainly interesting. So yes, I'm going to play that. Then the video as it was originally intended is going to play, which I just introduce myself again and point out what happens, and then go through the entire thing. I'm not adding images as such because really this is just a quick one. Later on I plan to actually have arranged discussions with, you know, the actual video, because I didn't want to record visuals because A, it could put them on edge, and B, you know, I didn't want to get into an issue with that confrontation on that fact. But so yeah, anyway, just going to play the little highlight of this, so those of you who have seen the title can watch it, and then if you don't want to watch the rest you can go, or if you want you can watch through the 17 minutes of conversation with which I do add some text here and there, which is just to highlight things, but yeah, I'm just talking on the spot right now, hence the stopping, etc. So, I'll see you in a bit.
What does B do again?
Charles Darwin himself once said, "The horrid doubt always arises whether the conviction of man's mind, which is developed of the mind of lower animals, are of any value or at all trustworthy. Would anyone trust the conviction of a monkey's mind, if there are any convictions in such a monkey's mind? In other words, if the brain has no more than a superior monkey mind, I cannot be sure that my own theory of origin is to be trusted."
It sounds to me like he was quite honestly sceptical of himself. As a scientist, I can always admit that he might possibly be wrong. That is not an admission that he is wrong. That is.
Do you agree with his logic?
There are plenty of arguments for it's the evolutionary argument for, you know, against intelligence. So possibly that's a better question for my friend Jarl, who loved picking apart that argument recently in his video. He's a student in Liverpool, philosophy student. You're coming back here. You know.
So yeah, that was a little interesting. We were actually, I ordered my toastie at 7 o'clock on the dot, and, you know, an hour and a half nearly passed, and I said, because we had a new guy who just moved into the door, I said, you know, when it gets to 8:30, we will go and we'll take you to Tesco's, because he wanted to go to Tesco's. And just then, you know, 3 minutes before we were going, the guy comes in running, and yes, he goes on how he's got a toastie. He's like, "Is it for me?" And well, you're here.
We've got two actually.
Yeah.
We have
Adam.
Oh, thank God.
No. Alright, so what was that? Sorry, a question. How much of the Old Testament still applies to everyday Christian life? All of it.
Really? Yeah. What about, because I read of it, it was like when a woman finishes her period, she has to sacrifice 2 pigeons.
Now, you've got to look at the point of the Old Testament, right? So the word testament is basically a posh word for promise. So the Old Testament means the Old Promise, which is the promise that Christ will come again. Now,
that's been fulfilled?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So what you see in the Old Testament is sort of a bad alternative for Christ, if that makes sense?
evil Christ.
So it points towards
the interim is the Old Testament.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does, but the Old Testament doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get together and read it if you want.
It's a date.
Yeah?
Depends how many toasties you can bring.
More questions will come again.
How's the toastie?
Is that a Harry Potter t-shirt?
I know it's not. That's an amazing t-shirt.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Did you buy it from the Harry Potter World?
No,
I
really want to go there.
I want to go too.
My friend brought me a Gryffindor flag from there. I need to bring that to home.
That helps.
I definitely want to go
Do you
back.
know what we're not happy with? Well, actually, Peter's not happy with.
Go on.
He sent the question first, and he's not opposed to.
My question was, if I can get my phone out.
And Harry sent one too, but he's got
I sent mine much later, but I followed it with many other texts saying what I actually want and then where I am. So I've got to do that in the original question.
The question was...
So you know, that just means you get like 6 different
texts
toasties.
From one number.
If God wants a personal relationship with me, yet is also all-powerful,
Yeah.
why does he not provide sufficient evidence for his existence, e.g. appear?
He does.
Super Mario Land. I would just go.
Example?
Yeah.
He did appear.
Drinking game.
Christ.
Well,
And it's like-
I mean, to me, going...
You've got the Old
Well, I
Testament,
never
which
lose any
is
lives.
full of history, right?
11.
Well, that's challengeable. For example, the existence of the Jews
What do
inside
you
of
say?
Egypt prior
Yes,
to the date
that's true. There is a lack of
Okay, I
argument
actually
for
don't
the Jews in
remember
Egypt.
yours. Is it
But I've got a
Jew?
question for you. Do you believe in evolution?
Yes.
But there are huge gaps in the fossil record. You still believe in evolution.
Yes, well, I can go on that with the genetic evidence, I can go on that with the
But we can
lab
take it
evidence.
on from the literary evidence
Oh, this is exciting.
as well.
It's getting a bit
But,
This is better.
you know,
than
and also, places
Oh.
existing, for example,
Yeah.
say Nazareth, there's not evidence for Jesus Christ existing. For example, New York existence is...
What about
What's
Josephus?
that? Butter Day.
The Roman historian Josephus, who wrote about Jesus.
Boxing Day.
Oh, boxing.
It could be a man called Jesus, but
It's very clear that it's, from his writings, it's very clear that he's talking about Jesus because he also talks about Paul and Peter as well, and other members of the early church. Not only that, something doesn't come out of nothing. If Jesus didn't exist,
well,
it says in
then how do you
1
explain every
Corinthians,
other creation myth around the world if nothing comes up? Because then that knocks
it
your myth
comes
out
as
as well.
a corruption of the original creation myth.
But ones that pre-existed.
What's the
predated.
original creation there?
Right.
But they.
But
What?
Long-
Well,
Ones
long before
Oh,
it was
the
written,
religions.
there were many
Yeah.
creation myths about this, and
But they are all contain similar.
well, I wouldn't count the tribal African myth that the world was created out of ant dung is very
I
similar.
didn't get up the top.
No.
I haven't died
But-
yet. Listen,
No, yeah, but
I'll put the sign up so you can never die.
The ultimate question, I guess, is can you prove it scientifically? And I would say there is significant proof of the six-day creation,
And I would like to
especially
know
with the
where.
flood.
Oh,
So
the flood.
polystratic fossils are a big one.
You mean the trees that go through?
Yes.
Oh yes, that was explained to me by the fact that yes, these did exist in swamps where sudden floods were common. That is not a global flood.
But it's also there is evidence in Mesopotamia for the flood as well. There are significant silt layers. But also, right,
It doesn't cover the globe though. It's only in very isolated spots.
if these levels happened over millions of years, what you would see is you would see erosion in these levels, which you don't see.
Oh well.
Which
It
points to a
depends
single
because,
event.
for example, on one side of the UK it is being eroded, whilst on the other side of the UK it's being deposited. So that's actually incorrect. It depends on the equilibrium of the place.
I don't think you're going to get to
Not
know any more
necessarily.
toasties, don't you?
No. It's nice to stop running.
I would also
Do you want a
challenge
drink?
evolution in several areas. There is an increase in genetic material as you go between species. Also, how on earth is a genetic mutation passed on? A genetic mutation is either a cancer.
It's not always harmful. Genetic mutation can be very
No.
different. For example, hair colour.
Yes.
That's not going to kill you.
No, but what I'm talking about is, I'm not talking about the difference between you and me. I'm talking about the difference between me and a cat, for example. You would say we come from a
Common ancestor.
A common
of the
ancestor.
cat, yes, but
Now-
that would predate the dinosaurs.
You have what you have is you have
Yes.
genetic changes, right? And these are not just a change in a single gene, these are significant changes, right?
Yes.
Which need to be passed on.
Given over 1 billion years, yes.
Yes. Now, what I would like to know is how can they be passed on? Now, either these happen at conception or in the zygotes, or they're not passed on, and they're individual changes. Now, also what you require is two organisms with a similar genetic code to multiply, right? So if the change is significant, there needs to be
It becomes
another
another
animal
species.
nearby, right?
Yes, but this
Who
gradually
is
happens.
able to breed
I mean,
that
for
up.
example, there is an island
Yeah.
with a type of salamander. I keep forgetting what type
Yeah.
it is, but the fact is there was some sort of ridge that was acted as a barrier along one side, and it got
Yeah.
deposited on one point.
This is.
And by the time it got around,
Yeah.
you know, they were breeding and they were changing,
Yeah.
they were adapting. By the time it got to the other side of that barrier, those two cannot breed. Yet that one there can still breed with the one at the top. They just can't breed that way. So that explains how.
It would explain the difference between two types of salamander, but how that would not explain the difference between two completely different species of
Well,
animals.
this is over, you know, 20, 30 years. This is not over 1 billion.
Still though, you've got to have, okay, I can see with small amounts like that, the salamander,
Yes.
but when you get the difference between a domestic cat and a lion,
Okay,
No.
well, it just takes under about 20 years for a lizard to go from insectivore diet to a plant diet.
yeah,
That's the entire restructure of the jaw. It goes from a very slender, very, you know, the teeth are very needle sharp. It goes from that to a very crushing, powerful jaw. That's a very big change over a very quick amount of time.
but you've also got animals with longer lifetimes. So that's when you get into an issue.
And where do they exist? Mostly towards the end of the field of life. You go back to, say, fish, for example, or vertebrates, you know, the early vertebrates, the frogs, and all that. Very, very quick
Also, how do you explain the existence, for example, sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction needs to be fully in place.
No, the flags were Super Mario Bros.
So there has to be
I can't remember.
a specific animal that will be born with this system in place.
Should we get some popcorn?
Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Well, some species don't just sexually reproduce, some species actually asexually and sexually reproduce. So it's a possibility for a creature to develop a sexual reproduction whilst retaining the asexual reproduction. So it could produce more like itself, and then sexual reproduction could take place.
But that's not necessarily true with mammals, for example.
Well, it didn't begin off in mammals, that's not where sexual reproduction begins.
So it's going sex.
No, I'd say...
But then, still then, you've got a
further
break
back.
in the link. You've got a break in, you've got a branch from the, coming off on the tree.
No, yeah, he filmed last night.
Right, so you're saying, okay, it started in, let's say for example, lizards, right?
Not lizards, much further back. Let's go further back.
But just say for example,
Early vertebrates, even before then, probably.
I'm just saying for example, okay? Now, what you then get for mammals is not coming from that branch, it's coming from a completely different branch. So not only has this reproduction got to happen in one part, it's got to happen in all the other parts that require it.
Or it happened right at the beginning from all vertebrates. So.
But we would know that then we do not have a common ancestor that far if we're going from the evolutionary point of view. I'm not an evolutionist.
Yeah, I know, but in fact, the point of tree of life is we all came from the same vertebrate ancestor. If that ancestor had the ability to sexually reproduce, so would we all have that ability.
If you just hurry up and die.
Were there actual people called Peter and John in old time Middle East?
Jonathan, yes. In maybe,
Are there records?
Hannah?
A lot of names have been changed, for example,
right.
Jesus
I
Christ
don't
was
know
not
what that
originally
is.
Jesus.
that's the Bible.
Oh, okay.
It was translated to Greek
How
and
can
then
that
to-
be? How can the Bible be
Can that be
taken
backed
as
up by
true
any other-
fact?
Yes, so for example, a lot of the early kings you can see in artifacts like the Sumerian Kings list, which also actually have a gap in it for the flood as well, which is very interesting.
What about Hannah?
Hannah? Oh, are you a Hannah?
I'm a Hannah.
Off the top of my head, I can't give any specific.
No, that's fine. I wondered. I'm not gonna
There is a
question
Hannah.
you at all.
Yes.
Seriously, I don't know enough about
I'm not
anything like
on
that.
a
But these are
intellectual level to
these are
argue
names in the
these
Middle
things.
East.
Yes,
So you don't find a lot of.
Hannah's there now, but that's
But
because it's
I don't
mostly
buy the
Islamic.
God delusion, but
Um, we have
through
the reason we have a lot of biblical names in the West is because it was Christian for couple thousand years. So the names came through that.
And they stuck because they're cool names.
Now I've got a philosophical question. for you.
Okay.
Do you trust the thoughts of a lower animal? For example, the logic of a cat or of a...
Oh, you're going to use the evolutionary
Describe-
argument against... I've heard about this, yes. Well, the fact that I do not have the same cognitive ability, it's going to be hard to communicate, so...
But if you could.
If I could, wouldn't know, that's the thing.
So where do we suddenly gain the intellectual ability? Where do we
In
suddenly...
cognitive ability?
Yes, where do we start getting logic that you would trust?
Go to the shop.
I guess I'd have to go through the human, human fossils to find out which cranial stage. Homo habilis.
Why Homo habilis?
Homo gaster, actually. I don't know.
Oh, I have a microwavable joke.
You didn't even give him his toast.
This is a bit odd. What is the point of the question? I just want to know.
If you wouldn't trust the thoughts of a lower animal, right,
Okay.
which you've come from, right, why would you trust your own? Because you've come from this animal, so you are
No,
That's a bit of a fallacy. That's like asking, if you did not trust your father, why did you trust yourself?
No, because your father's the same species as you.
What though?
He's slightly genetically different material, but that's the thing. So, yeah, at the time, I would have to look at the species' abilities. That's
And how would you define certain species have the ability?
Oh, I love that game. I used to
well,
have
their cognitive ability, their emotional capacity, the capacity for empathy.
Game watch.
Yeah, it's got like
I can't exactly quantify it right now on the spot. That's the issue.
Yeah, I accept that. Now, Charles Darwin was riddled with
Yeah.
fear that he couldn't trust his own logic as a result of that.
So you get it
hypothesis.
immediately.
And the quotes for this?
I can get it for you.
Okay.
I've got a book. Do you want my email?
Yeah. Do you have? Are you the one that runs the group?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Because I actually have my email already. Because I contacted them today.
Or you can have my mobile number. I'll need to get a book, but I'm seeing a guy on Thursday.
See, they're all like,
Which one am I
Well,
meant to go on again?
My name's Peter Thurston. If you ask,
Actually, Peter,
yes.
I texted an image of this quote to somebody, so I can I'll get it now if you want.
Yep, sure.
you get anything over Tesco?
Let me find.
I got some money and beer.
What does B mean again?
Give me.
The quote, well,
I'm just gonna use that.
where I saw the quote was quoted.
That's too full.
Yeah.
And they're going to go
Called
off
The Universe Next Door, which is a catalogue of the issue.
Well,
Very good read.
What does B do again?
Now I'm just going to get some cash.
Oh, okay. No, we're going to Tesco if you want anything.
What does B do again?
Charles Darwin himself once said,
yeah?
the horrid doubt always arises whether the conviction of man's mind, which has developed of the mind of lower animals, are of any value or at all trustworthy. Would anyone trust the conviction of a monkey's mind, if there are any convictions in such a monkey's mind? In other words, if the brain has no more than a superior monkey mind, I cannot be sure that my own theory of origin is to be trusted.
It sounds to me like he was quite honestly sceptical of himself. As a scientist who can always admit that he might possibly be wrong. That is not an admission that he is wrong. That is.
Do you agree with his logic?
And my shoes are really
There are plenty of arguments for it's the evolutionary argument for against intelligence. So possibly that's a better question for my friend Jarl, who loved picking apart that argument recently in his video. He's a student in Liverpool, possibly.
Are you coming back here?
Yeah, we should go
I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'll let you go now because I've kept you here
I'll
quite
text you the
long.
quote,
leaving, actually.
and then you can send me a link to the video.
Okay, sure. I'll get my number up quickly.
Give me a second.
I just got to see this other now.
Yeah, let's go. I'm going to dribble this.
I've got to listen to some
Priorities.
I've forgotten how to twist it to break those.
Press down when you're.
I'd also be interested to know, do you believe in absolute morality?
Define absolute
A definite right and wrong.
No.
Sorry?
Is this? That's a very tricky question, and yes, I have come across that before, and I'd love to discuss it another time.
Yeah, this is a
not.
a question of my own mind, because I'd be very interested to see how many. I assume you're an atheist.
Yes.
Me.
Atheists believe in absolute morality.
What is this?
Okay. No, I thought no.
It's a bit.
Do you think you
Sometimes
can
a bit
believe in
different.
part of
Sometimes the
Christian
opponents keep changing the terms. That's the thing as well.
Oh, okay. What is your name?
Peter Thurston.
No, well, you can, but then you wouldn't really.
What's your number?
Oh, no, I don't think
07.
I believe in.
No, I wasn't saying.
Let's talk about that.
9.
Very good t-shirt, Harry Potter t-shirt.
What's the money is to? Is that fine?
absolute morality?
What?
So if you're an atheist,
Do you believe in absolute
It's
morality? Do you believe
Mario.
that some things which are definitely right and some things
I
which are
have
definitely
no
wrong?
idea. You should eat.
Get it?
There's stuff that's
Right,
wrong.
Holly.
The thing is,
Yeah.
that's absolute in different senses. It's absolute that, you know, that specific case example is always wrong.
I mean,
Well, it's
absolute
absolute that's wrong to do that in no matter the case. That's it. For example, to lie is an absolute.
I would say to lie, there is no such thing as specific cases. There is right, there is wrong.
So is it wrong to lie?
Yes, for example.
Okay, my grandparents were part of the Dutch resistance.
Uh-huh.
They smuggled out Jews during World War II. They had to lie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was that wrong for them?
Not necessarily. It's
But you just said that is
Yes,
absolutely
but
wrong.
for-
But that's
things
what I mean. It's quite easy to
Surely
get
the
caught
pros
out.
outweigh the cons, though. If it's wrong to lie, and
That's why
surely
it's-
God forgives you if you lie.
forgives, repentance, sin. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Peter,
Sit down.
we'll have to meet up
So
another
that's me
time.
another time. I've actually contacted the group about this thing because I wanted to come to the talk today.
Yeah.
However, I had a lunch with sociology departments.
Okay, I can get you the notes from it. if you want.
Okay, yes, sure. I'll do
No,
that.
he's not. Richie's not coming. No, Kurt's gone over.
See you later, guys.
So
Have fun with the
Nice to meet you.
toasties. Nice to meet you too. Bye.
Get a toasty.
See you again.
So yes, anyway, we decided to bug off to Tesco's after that, and on the way back, I was informed that my toastie had in fact arrived. But before that, let's just talk about it, because, you know, I was thinking on the spot, and it is a little late here, and it has been busy, it has been stressful. I think I did reasonably well. It's a bit hard when he's putting me on the spot to try and quantify and, you know, operationalise, I should say, what point would I start trusting, you know, proto-humans. So it was a bit, I think it was a bit two-way, but either way I seem pretty okay with how I turned out. I don't know what you guys think, but yes, I've also sent the group an email about how I'd like to go to one of their discussions. I'd like to talk to some of them. So yeah, and time for my toastie, I think. So it's okay actually. So yes, sorry to be eating in front of you. This is Essence of 4. Take care. Out.